Welcome to Let's Talk About Weddings, a podcast designed for couples that are planning a wedding and preparing for marriage. We're your hosts. I'm Jared.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are 6 Day Films. We're honored to sit down each episode with a wedding professional, vendor, or a marriage expert to ask them a simple question. What advice would you give to every couple that's planning a wedding and preparing for marriage?
Some weeks will be super practical. Some weeks will be a little more philosophical. But every week will be incredibly fun as we spend time with our friends, hearing their stories and learning from their wisdom.
All right, here we go.
Let's talk about weddings.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Weddings. Today we're excited that we have Miss Katherine Martin-Ross with us of Duet Floral Studios. We actually filmed your wedding a couple years ago now, so it's really cool. And you did the flowers for that, and we've had a couple weddings with you
did
since.
your own flowers?
I did.
How was that?
Feat of strength. I would do it again, and I enjoyed it. My twin sister, when she got married, was like, "No way, are we doing that for my wedding?"
Oh, you didn't do the flowers for her wedding?
No, we hired another florist for that. And
Did that kill you
that's cool.
a little bit?
I think I'm willing to take it on. I think she'd rather just not have to worry about it. So
yeah, because you guys are doing stuff. I feel like you pre-made a lot of stuff, but you were doing some things the wedding day, which is
and it was the day before. We were lucky our venue let us come in the day before and do some installation work. We also got to bring everything in, and I hired a team to kind of help set things up. So but yeah, it was a little strategic. Like I had to make sure the ceremony items I picked out, the reception items I picked out were all things that we could pre-make ahead of time. Otherwise I don't know if it would have been possible. So
but it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Did you feel extra pressure doing your own wedding?
I do feel like, I don't know, I do think there was a piece of me that really wanted it to be like a showcase of what I was capable of doing from like a design perspective. And I'm really proud of the work that we did. But yeah, there was, I think, a little extra pressure. And it was fun working with all the vendors that I work with, like you guys, and
obviously,
and other vendors I work with all the time. And I feel like, I don't know, I really wanted to make sure it was kind of worth everyone else's time too, which is maybe not a great way to think about it, but it was fun to like kind of figure some of that stuff out. So yeah.
So married 2 years. How's Devin doing? You guys doing well?
Good. Yeah, good. He started a new job.
What's he
old,
doing?
Really. He works in healthcare IT consulting. So very different industry.
Yeah,
but,
super creative industry.
Yeah, and he'll occasionally help me out too, depending on what I have going on.
Yeah, he was with you. Where were we at? The
Sixpence, maybe?
No, Anju and Harsha. You did their wedding, right?
at the library.
The library, that's right. Yeah. I
try really hard not to make him help because he does work. I get Mondays off. He has to work on Monday.
Yeah.
So, but occasionally he'll come in if someone's sick.
That was
or
a big
I need
install. That was a
something.
beautiful wedding.
Thank
a lot
you.
of florals.
Yeah, that was fun. The colors were great for that one too.
That was incredible. Was that so? They had sort of a fusion wedding, if you will. They did like traditional American ceremony, and then they changed into more Indian traditional clothing later on. So did that play into like the design? Yeah,
the sari that Anju wore was this really beautiful like fuchsia magenta color, and it was very important that we like use those colors for the flowers. So that was like a big piece of it, and we had some like gold accents in the flowers, like painted pulmosa and things like that, because there was a lot of gold detailing in the sari. So and I made my first mala, which is like the rose necklace.
Oh, did you make those?
I made those, and so it was a lot of fun to work with them on that.
Yeah. So we went to India.
Had a lot of those.
Yeah, we went to India early 2020, right before COVID. And they gave
literally
us
2 weeks before the world shut down.
Yeah, they gave us
oh my God.
So many of those. Everywhere you went was like a sign of respect.
I remember I was like walking like.
Yeah,
so they are heavy.
Yeah, they're no
full size
joke.
Roses are hardcore. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we've skipped a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you. We went right into the work. Tell us a little about you.
Yeah, I'm an Indy native. Grew up in Fishers. Still live in Indianapolis. I live in Fountain Square.
So you're one of those cool people.
Yeah. No.
And what's the fun detail about your house?
It's the oldest house in Indianapolis.
It's pretty cool.
200 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's a lot of work, but we enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I outside of flowers, do a little intramural volleyball.
I love that. That's fun.
Probably see me at Bovo Conti Coffee, maybe too much.
So that we used to go there a lot too when
Yeah.
we were cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite local
It's a
coffee
good,
shops.
yeah, they're good. The owner's really great
Yeah.
too, Justin, and their team's really nice. So, and they do pup cups, and I have a husky, so you can walk your dog like inside to the coffee shop.
And they have that big, nice outdoor, well,
yeah.
not huge, but really nice outdoor space.
Yeah, it's fun to sit there and work. So I'm hanging around in Fountain Square. My husband's really much more of the music person, so I can't really claim like the music cred for the
Sure.
neighborhood, but I'll sometimes be at the High Five. He
Yeah.
has something he wants to go to.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you guys have that. Like, I wish that part of me wishes like we had met in our 20s, early 30s, and like had been able to like have that time downtown. Like, if we lived downtown right now, it'd be
A literal
a
disaster.
nightmare. It'd be a nightmare. But like, I just love that when couples get that, especially
Yeah.
when you're early married. You know, you guys just got married a couple years ago, as we talked about. So,
Yeah.
how's married life treating you?
It's great. Yeah. Yeah, we love it. It's awesome.
So tell us a little bit how you kind of found yourself, not necessarily in the wedding industry, but into the is it florals? Is that the
Yeah,
correct?
floral industry.
Floral
sure.
industry.
Yeah.
I'll do that again because
Flower industry also. Either's fine.
It's like when people say videography, and I'm like, it's just videography.
Yeah.
I got the
funny.
videographer. I'm like, that's
That
not.
makes me think I have a communication degree, and everyone always says
Communications,
communications, which
yeah.
I think is like cabling. Like
Yeah.
I think it's a totally different.
You're like, I don't
industry.
have that.
Yeah.
I'm not coming to install
Yeah,
Wi-Fi at
no.
your house.
No.
That's funny. So how did you get kind of into the floral industry? Have you always been a creative like that, or?
Yeah, I've definitely always been creative. I actually have a marketing background. So
Okay.
I used to work in tech. At right around the pandemic, I started to feel like I wasn't growing in my career anymore, and was trying to figure out, like, was it the industry that I was in? Was it the role that I was in? Or was it maybe the team that I was on? And one of the things I did was actually see a career coach. I learned two things. One was that my work was sort of my full identity, and it was like kind of the only thing I had going on that I was like really proud of. I didn't have a lot of hobbies anymore that I was really proud of. So
Is that a problem? Because I might need to talk to you after this.
well, I feel like as an entrepreneur, kind of hobbies blend into your
Right.
career
Yes,
a little
they
bit
do.
more.
Yeah.
So I started to feel like I needed to kind of figure that out. And then the other piece of it was exploring whether or not I needed to move fields. And they do like a personality assessment. They look at people who are similar to you and what jobs they're most fulfilled by. And, you know, I feel like everyone did this in like high school maybe or something like that. But you're supposed to look at the top 4 or 5 and pick a few that you're interested in and try to talk to people in those careers and see what you like. And floristry was really high on the list. And I didn't really realize that it was something that I could, you know, have a career in that would be similar to like the income level I was at in the career I was in before.
Yeah.
And I met a couple of people that work specifically in the wedding industry and started freelancing for them early on, just mostly setting up candleware and things, putting things on tables, not design work, but it slowly evolved into design work. Took a couple courses in floristry, and at the time I thought it was just going to be something that was going to be like my hobby. Yeah. And then my older sister got married. We ended up doing her wedding flowers in Maine. She had kind of like a small family only wedding. And then people started asking us to do weddings. I'm really thankful for the referrals I got from the florists that I was freelancing for. Oftentimes, like if someone didn't hit their minimum or they were already booked, they sent my first clients to our way. And Kristin and I were doing the flowers together at the time.
Which is how you came up with the name, right?
Yeah, Duet.
Yeah.
And we did 10 weddings in our first season together. The next season, like officially as a business, the next season we did 30. Then we did 42 last year, and we've got 47 this year.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So we went from Kristin and I doing it while also working jobs to me being full-time to us both doing it to now we have a team in place so that Kristin's more of like a marketing operator and I'm the floral operator, and our team can help us implement the events that we have scheduled. So
That's incredible.
yeah, it's kind of spiraled. But
Upwards.
Yeah,
Upwards,
in a good way. Yeah, both of our parents are actually entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
I think if you go back in time, like I probably wouldn't have thought I would start a business, but then of course, like now it's
Like,
kind
it
of like,
makes
oh,
sense.
okay.
Yeah.
Like maybe I didn't feel like as afraid to do it because I've
Yeah.
seen people do it successfully.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's really cool. What was it like for you? I'm just curious because we've had thousands of conversations before I like took the leap to do wedding video full time. What was that conversation like for you? You were in Devin were married. Like,
Yeah,
when did you go full time?
I went full time. Well, so we're really lucky because we bought our house in 2018 and it was in a neighborhood it was like a very affordable house. It was also a duplex. So we have tenants that live in the house. So like collectively, we don't have a lot of cost when it comes to our mortgage. So it was very easy for me to go full time because it wasn't like a super big risk. So, you know, I was definitely getting a pay cut, but a lot of that, luckily for us in the situation we were in, put a little less pressure on our relationship. But we have been together for, gosh, I think 11 years now. So,
Wow.
and we had been living together already for, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of like, you know, I'm lucky that he's very supportive. I feel like some partners are like, well, I don't know, like maybe you shouldn't do that. Or a lot of people will tell you the reason not to start a business. You start a business, but he was very supportive. So I think I was lucky there.
That's cool.
But yeah, it gave me the option to just like really devote to sales and things like that. And the cool thing about the floral industry is you can freelance for other florists. So if you don't have your own events booked, people always need more hands, especially for big events. They need more designers because you have a limited amount of time to make all of the items. So I was doing a lot more freelance then in the beginning too as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when was like your first time working with flowers? Was it at your sister's wedding or had this been something that
I
you
had been doing it, a little bit
own?
before, freelancing before my sister's wedding, just kind of making arrangements. So yeah, and you know, I think growing up, I always really enjoyed flowers. Like we were definitely like always get flowers when you get your groceries kind of a family.
Okay.
I
Nice.
know they're not like luxurious or anything like that, but I feel like I arranged and it just kind of became something that I was doing more as kind of like a creative outlet.
Yeah. And when you start, I'm just curious, I'm always curious about how their creative people do their thing. Like, do you start with like, I want to use, like with flowers, you see more them as like color, or is it presence or textures, or like, how do you start? Like when you start thinking about arranging something, where do you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's just for me, like normally I'll go to a wholesaler and I'll look and just pick something that catches my eye and kind of build around that. If you look at a flower, there's a lot of things it can tell you about the things that'll go with it. You know, the stem itself tends to have like a warmer or cooler green tone color. The flower itself has an undertone, a certain color. And then just thinking of the color wheel and the different palettes that you can create that go well together. Like, do you want to create something that's monochromatic, something that are the 3 colors next to each other on the color wheel?
Right.
You could do high contrast, high impact across from each other on the color wheel. So
That's fascinating.
there's a triadic color option too as well. Like a lot of them serve different purposes. So
Right.
depending on if I want to create something high impact, I found a really cool dahlia. Dahlias are in season, and it's a more warm tone dahlia. I would maybe kind of build something around knowing those things. But
That's super cool.
a lot of my work, like clients will come to me with ideas, and then I sort of inject seasonality, some feedback on, like, you know, if you're going to the sixpence where it's really white and bright, maybe you want to do a little more color because high contrast there is going to be more impactful, versus if you're at the Scottish Rite Cathedral, it's very dark and it's got the paneling. Maybe we want to do something a bit brighter,
Right.
because that'll be more impactful. So I'm injecting that into the process, but also holding true to their style and what they've liked that they've seen in other places.
Right. That's crazy. I mean, we do it with coloring films and things like that, and especially when do photography of looking at the color palette and looking at the color wheel and things like that. So how annoyed do you get when you see a photo or video come back and you can tell that they've manipulated the colors so much that it's not true to life of like what you created? Does that annoy you at all? Or are you like, oh, that's unfortunate?
I don't think I get annoyed. I do think like that's good advice for clients. Like, I think when you send Pinterest images to your florist and you've selected your photographer, I think you also need to think about like, how does the editing style of the artist that you selected for photography or videography work with the color palette that you've chosen? I have plenty of people that'll pick like cool tone colors, but then the photography is more of that warm color. And those, I think I would maybe suggest maybe trying to change it or do something a little bit different in that scenario. So I would say the hard thing with it, I do get a lot of inspo from people, and sometimes I'll get inspo where like, because it was edited a certain way, like I have to tell them, well, actually in person, it's not going to quite look like that. It just doesn't come in that color. Yeah. But it's because this photo's been edited. And more recently I've been getting AI floral inspo. And so it's like flowers that don't even exist.
Aren't even a real thing.
They're not even real in nature.
This was in the Jurassic period.
Yeah.
This no longer
so
exists.
it's kind of like, well, it
it's
doesn't
pretty,
come in that color. Yeah. This is not a real image of flowers, which has been interesting too.
Yeah, that'd be rough. Is that from like people our age doing that, or like parents?
Pinterest does it now. Pinterest just automatically generates AI imagery now. So you search like hydrangea bouquet, and a couple of the first ones are just going to be images that
it's not
Pinterest
it's
just
literally not
created,
real.
like
that's
through
wild.
AI. Yeah. So
Interesting.
I know. So kind of interesting, but
Yeah. I'm wondering like, how helpful is that?
I haven't gotten a ton until this year with my new inquiries for next year. I've gotten a lot of AI inspo, which is really interesting. So just working
How do you break
through that
to them?
Normally I'm like, well, this is this is AI. Here's what it looks like. Here's what to expect.
Yeah.
And
I'm curious if that's going to change people's like expectations or make them unrealistic for the day. If it's like, if you have something in your head that's like better than what reality is.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
do think that's true. I think that also can kind of be true too with like, I'll get inspo that's like styled shoots or something like that. And they just tend to be like a little impractical for the actual like experience of the guests and kind of what you have going on.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So do you do other forms of art as well? I feel like you really have a good handle on the color wheel and things like that.
Well, I would say like growing up, I was like always kind of creative. Other than that, not really. I mean, I guess if you could say like marketing was always kind of my art before then. Like I feel like I spent a lot of time creating things for work or, you know, like coming up with content for social media. Like I do think that's like a creative outlet. All the graphic designers out there would hate how much I use Canva and how excellent I think I am in it. So
you're a Canva pro.
I'm a Canva pro. Yes. Yeah, for sure. So
it's just too easy.
Yeah.
It
makes my job very easy, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah. Though it is funny, my sister is a product designer, graphic designer, and I think a big testament to our success has been her ability to create our website and our brand early on. I feel like we showed up really professionally. But when I create something in Canva and I send it to her and say, like, can you please make this better? It comes back and I'm like, I'm bad at this. Like, I can just tell. Like, I think I'm like, okay. And then she just tweaks some things. I'm like, yeah, there's just a little bit of like rules that she knows about that I don't quite know. So, yeah.
That's cool. It's good. Well, it's good that you guys have each other.
Pairs well together.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up with a twin? This is a off the path question.
I loved it personally, and so did Kristin. I think with twins, you can go one way or the other. Either you stay close and you really enjoy spending time together, or you know twins that aren't close at all. And we were lucky, I think, to be the type that were friends. And sometimes to our detriment, though, like almost all the time we have the same interests. Like went to the same college. Like we had to make like little choices. Like we didn't room together freshman year of college because we were like, well, like, you know, we already decided to go to the same place. Like, you know, we're trying to be individuals and have our own like thing. And and now as like a 30-year-old, I'm like, we should have roomed together. It would have been way better. But but you know, you don't know what you don't know. But even like work, we've kind of liked the same things. We've actually worked at a lot of the same companies before too, before Duet. And then obviously it felt like a no-brainer. I was definitely like more into the flower side of things. Kristin was really great at getting the brand and the business off the ground. I think it just paired really well together to start the business.
Wow. That's really cool. It's cool that you guys have each other for that and can, you know, very similar, but also have different strengths and can bring to the table.
I think so.
That's
too.
cool. So when you started getting into, you started doing some freelance stuff on the side just to kind of get a feel for that. What was it like doing your first like paid wedding? What did that feel like? Not your sister's, but your own. That's like, this is my client. I'm in charge of this. How was that for you?
It was great. I think that I learned a lot of lessons. It was very early on. I thought like just little things. Some of these I feel like other florists could be like, this is embarrassing that those are the mistakes you made. But like, it was a wedding in July and you can't get peonies in July, but the bride loved peonies and I was convinced that I was going to find them. And I actually had to order them from Alaska because that's the only place you can get peonies in July. They were so expensive. Like they were like $7 a stem wholesale. Ooh. And that's the wholesale price, like what I'm paying for the flower versus typically flower shops mark up flowers 3 times. So lost money on the peonies for that one. Bride loved it though. Yeah. And I remember I gave her bridal bouquet, the first bride that trusted us with having never done anyone's wedding before to do their wedding. And she loved it. And I remember sitting back in my car and just like, it literally made me cry. I was like, I was so stressed, but then also so proud that we had done that. So yeah, I mean, that was like a big feeling. And it's funny how long it took us to set up that wedding and how quick it would take me to set up that wedding now. But I think they really trusted us and we also gave them a pretty good deal, I feel like, at that time. So yeah, it all worked out.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's nice. We had a podcast earlier with a planner and she was talking about that feeling of like when the job is done, you sit down and you're like, oh, I did that. That's cool. Yeah, that's when you know that you're in the right business for this season.
Well, and that was like a growth opportunity, and I think every year there's 1 or 2 things that I'm doing something that's new or I haven't done before that puts me out of my comfort zone a little bit, and there is that feeling afterward where you're like, wow, I did that. I mean, last year we did this humongous hanging installation at the Blackfriars Estate, and it was like 900 stems of faux wisteria, and we had all of this greenery, and we like covered the entire ceiling of the Willow Chapel.
Wow.
And I was like losing sleep for weeks. Like I rigged like the way we were gonna do it. I was worried about how long it was gonna take, if it was gonna look full enough. So I like timed myself like rigging the same thing across my ceiling in my kitchen. I like literally put nails in the wall to like test to make sure it would work out. And every year there's like 1 or 2 things, but after you do it and you're like, wow, it actually took less time than I thought it would.
And
the preparation was worth it.
Yeah.
We did it. It turned out great. Like, that always feels good. So.
That's cool.
Well, in floristry, like to do something unique and, it's decor. You want to do something unique. You want to do something new. You don't want to just copy other people. So there is a little bit of risk involved in the idea that you're going to come up with something and you don't exactly know what it's going to look like yet until you put it together. So
that's pretty incredible.
But you test as much as you can ahead of time.
Yeah.
Or you should. You definitely should. So
you were speaking earlier about the in season, out of season, that kind of stuff, and then. How do you guys like try to work through like sustainability issues with like florals and water and all that kind of stuff? And just kind of like, how do you try to navigate that stuff, but also deliver a really beautiful day? Because I feel like that's an element that we don't really have to think about, but I'm sure there is some of that. Because I think I've seen some posts and stuff like that from you on Instagram. It's like, oh, she's at least thinking in that way. Because it's.
Yeah, I mean, we make a lot of. I know we're not perfect. There are florists out there that are like more sustainable than we are, and I know that we have some improvement we can do there, but just little things like when you can use water and chicken wire instead of foam, do that, because foam is plastic and they make it now so that it slowly biodegrades, but it doesn't.
I wasn't even thinking about foam.
It used to not biodegrade. There's a lot of floral waste. One thing that we do as a part of our teardown services for no additional charge, we'll come back 45 minutes early and turn your centerpieces into take-home bouquets that your guests can take with them. Because a lot of flowers do end up in the trash.
Absolutely.
Just like the food, like, a lot of your cake ends up in the trash. A lot of the meals end up in the trash because there's always extra food. But we have the luxury of being able to give someone something on the way out. And I think legally you can't give people food in that same way. Trying to do that, create the take-home bouquets. That's, I think, really great and helpful. So just like little things where we can, making sure we do what we can. We do have a compost bin that we use as well, but you know, when we try to buy local when we can, it just depends on kind of the vision. A lot of wedding flowers and a lot of what people want are from like South America and Holland. And in those places they're treated with a lot of pesticides. So there's some limitations on what you can compost and things like that.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I've seen, I think I remember seeing a post from you, and we can cut this if it's not from you, but talking about like why supermarket flowers are so cheap versus like what people pay for their wedding stuff. Is that something that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true.
Is that why supermarkets last for like weeks on end? Is because there's so many chemicals in them?
Well, some of that. And I also think like it's kind of the quality of the flower.
Sure.
Like a carnation, you could probably leave out of water for a very long time and it'll always kind of look alive. They pick things that are going to last a long time. Supermarket flowers are also cheaper just because they have the luxury of like buying in bulk in a way that like other small florists can't. Like Kroger can buy a huge bulk amount from wholesalers and distribute it. And they also don't necessarily need to make money off the flowers. Like one of the reasons why Trader Joe's flowers are so cheap is because they're content with losing money on the flowers to get people into Trader Joe's. So
interesting.
So a little
you
bit
don't
of that.
want to lose money on the flowers?
No, I try not to. Yeah, I try not to when I can. But I also think the flowers we order, the flowers that you see in wedding work, are typically different than the flowers you see in a grocery store.
Sure.
We may use carnations occasionally. Yes, we use standard roses, but a lot of the specialty flowers that people are really into, and I'm trying to think of things that are in right now, like hanging amaranthus, which is the green kind of hanging stuff. Anthurium, that's a tropical flower. Specialty hydrangea, you might see that at a grocery store, but certain colors you maybe wouldn't see. Garden roses, which are the more fragrant, fuller size roses that we use probably more often than a standard rose. Ranunculus, butterfly ranunculus, and then all the local stuff like dahlias, zinnias, peonies. You could see some of that in the grocery store, but the quality of the local blooms are going to be better, and you won't see that at like a Kroger or something like that.
That's good to know.
Thank you so much for listening to the Let's Talk About Weddings podcast. It truly means the world to us, and we hope you find it helpful as you plan your wedding and prepare for marriage. Even with all the great advice you're getting from different wedding pros, we know that every couple still has the same problem no matter who they are, what their wedding day looks like, or how much time you spend planning. It's the blur. Blur is the enemy. You spend all this time, energy, and money creating a beautiful day, and it literally flies by. That's where we come in. At 6 Day Films, we create timeless cinematic highlight films that tell your story and slow down the blur. If you'd like to chat about us joining your wedding day, please visit our website, 6dayfilms.com. That's the number 6, THDAYFILMS.com. To find out more information, check out a few of our films, and fill out the contact form. Now, let's get back to our conversation. Sarah had to hop out because she had to take our son to an appointment, but we're going to keep going on with the conversation with Katherine. So one of the things I, just picked up on in our conversation is how like many flowers you can name, and it's like a second language to you. Like, was that something that you've just developed over the last few years, or is that something that like you worked hard, or just because you're in it all the time? And like, how does that work for you?
I think a lot of it is when you are designing, you're buying wholesale. Not only do you have to know the names, the variety names, but you also have to know the prices, because a lot of it isn't listed. So you just develop a knowledge over time.
Okay.
Anytime I don't know a flower, but I'd like to use it because it's in inspo, or, mostly because it's in the client's inspo, and I want to see if I can get it as well. You can just take a screenshot and Google it, and normally Google will tell you what they are. And I think over time, you just start to learn the names.
Yeah.
And I think I'm an expert in wedding flowers. There are probably a lot of flowers that I don't use in my day-to-day, like tropicals, or even some local stuff that I may not be as familiar with. Plants, I'm terrible at plants. It wouldn't quiz me on plants, but flowers, especially flowers that are normally in weddings, are the ones that I know really well. And I know a lot of rose varieties, but mostly just out of ordering and having to memorize the variety names and the prices off the top of my head too as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that's interesting. So when you're starting to work with a client or a couple, what are some things that you wish more people just kind of knew going into the conversation? Because obviously you can tell by this conversation, I don't spend a lot of time buying flowers, working with flowers. What are some of the things that you're like, if I could tell a couple this about their experience or just to expect this, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. The first thing that came to mind when you asked that was just the fact that you don't have to know anything about flowers. You don't have to know their names.
Right.
You don't need to inquire with a list of the 10 flowers that you think we should use. Really, like, all I need to know is maybe just some photos of things that you've liked. Probably won't copy it exactly, but just to give me an idea of the vibe or the style of design that you're into, what colors you like, when your wedding is, and we can make all the suggestions on what flowers to use that make sense for the time period, that go with your colors and all of that. Go with the style of designs that you like. So you don't have to know anything about flowers. I think the other thing is just also know that flower quotes are incredibly customizable.
Okay.
And you should lean on your florist to find something that fits your budget, knowing that you may need to swap some things out or make some changes. If a client could come to me and they say, ideally I'd spend around this, what is my wish list cost? I can do an estimate on that. And then I can also take the wish list and make a suggestion that helps them hit their budget. So don't be afraid to be honest with your florist about how much you want to spend on floral and decor. Because a good florist should be able to take your wish list, quote that. And if that's too expensive, they should be able to make a suggestion that actually fits your budget too.
Right.
So, I would say, like, don't be afraid to actually talk numbers. I think sometimes people get a little nervous to share things like that, but they are so customizable that it really helps us to know, like, if your max budget's $5,000, I don't want to suggest 10 grand worth of flowers. I can help you decide what's most important to get to $5,000 just based off what you're interested in.
Right. No, I think that's incredibly valuable. And then the thing of that too is like helping people. Like, you're an expert in this. You're in it, like you said, like you're in this every day, you know, multiple times a week. You're having these conversations, not having the expectation that they're going to come. And it's the same conversation that we have with couples on their weddings. Like, on their wedding film, like if you have things that you like I want to know that, I want to see that, because at the end of the day, you know, you're going to be watching this in 15 years. I won't be. So if you have things that you really love, then let's talk about that. I want to see that. But if you don't, then that's completely okay. I don't expect you to have all of the things answered and to know how to do this and know what we should be talking about or using, that kind of stuff. And so I think it's good for people just to kind of hear that and have, or like, release themselves of that fear, I guess.
Well, and I think, you know, I feel like with social media and, like, you know, the kind of the way the wedding industry is right now, there's a lot of pressure, especially in decor, that you have to have certain items. Like, everyone needs a boutonniere, and you have to get corsages for everyone, and you have to have centerpieces and aisle clouds and a big arch and all this stuff.
Right.
But I would encourage clients to actually think about, like, what moments, and I would imagine videography is similar to this too as well, like, what moments of your wedding are most important to you? When you close your eyes and you picture your wedding, what are you seeing?
Right.
How do we prioritize your floral budget on those areas rather than little bits of flowers all over the place? Because it'll add up quickly if you're doing flowers for everyone based off the checklist that you got off of Pinterest. Like, I think I would rather have no boutonnieres and all bud vases and a huge ceremony install with beautiful aisle markers, because the ceremony is the most important thing to you. Or if the ceremony is only going to be 20 minutes and it already has a beautiful tree as your backdrop and you don't care about ceremony flowers, I'd rather do really cool centerpieces, because that is what matters more to you. Don't feel this pressure that you have to do all of it because Pinterest and Instagram and, you know, your grandmother are making you feel like you have to check all these boxes off for decor.
Absolutely. And I think having realistic expectations for yourself, we were talking about AI earlier, of like, you know, if, like, that's one of the things that I think people, maybe florals are a little bit like this, but like, you see a videographer and you go look at their pricing and they cost 25 grand to have them come film your wedding, and everything they do looks beautiful and it's perfect. And it's like, well, that wedding was like a $500,000 wedding that they shot. It's not the same as, you know, a smaller budget wedding. There's nothing wrong with either one of them, but like setting yourself up to, like, if you take that videographer and you put them here at this wedding over here that has like a 10 grand budget or a 50 grand budget, it's going to be shot beautifully, but it's not going to look as like magical and
Yeah.
epic and all these
Yeah.
things. So like having some realistic expectations for yourself. And I think that's a great point of like picking out what you really want.
What you care the most
what
about.
what do you care about?
Yeah.
And then that's what you go with. If it's, you know, an incredible bouquet, like
Great.
let's get that.
Yeah.
That's possible. So I think that's those are brilliant points.
Yeah, I mean, and I even have clients that are they're like, I don't care about my bouquet at all.
Right.
And I'm like, well, maybe you don't need one. Like
Right.
some people don't want one. That's
Yeah.
fine too. So you get to decide. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, you know, I feel like every inquiry I always get requests for aisle markers. And I think it's because a lot of photos that you see on social media are full aisle markers.
Yeah.
But if you're getting married and you hate the chairs, like I don't know if we need to pay $250 to accentuate the chair.
Right.
Like
you don't like, yeah.
and you don't want that photo. The photo that you see on Pinterest, if you already don't love how the chairs look, you're probably not going to care too much
Yeah.
about the photo you get back of the aisle marker. So let's spend that money somewhere else on
Yeah.
decor in another location. That's something you do actually care about.
Yeah. So you were talking about this earlier before we started. You did the florals for your own wedding. We talked about that a little bit, but you mentioned there'd be some things that you would change and do differently today.
Yeah.
What would some of those changes be? Because I thought
Yeah.
everything you did looked incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so I loved all of it. It's just funny, like, and maybe my advice isn't that. I think now if I did it, I would do it differently. And I think that's just because trends change.
Sure.
And I think maybe the advice coming out of that would just be like, nothing is timeless. So don't like get so concerned with decor being timeless, because no matter what, you're going to look at some things that you picked for your decor and you're going to be like, now I wouldn't do that again.
Right.
But in the moment, it was great. And you loved
Right.
it in the moment. I had a lot of disco balls and I liked our disco ball installation. But I maybe would have done less disco balls in other places.
Yeah.
And I think it hits a moment in time. I also think I had a lot of bows and I loved them at the time, but it also was one of those things that was a trend. It had its moment in time.
Yeah.
So of course I would change those things now if I were
But
to
it
redo
fit.
it.
Like
but I would say
your dress was fun.
I wouldn't say I would go back in time
Yeah.
and change it. I just, if I planned a wedding right now, I would do
It'd be
something different.
Yeah.
And I think for all decor, that's always going to be the case. I don't even care if you do all white flowers. You're still probably going to feel that about
Yeah.
some of your decor. There's going to be something about it that's going to be different
Yeah.
when we do another wedding that's the same color palette in 5 years from now. That's just
Right.
how it is. So maybe the advice from that is just don't feel so much pressure to like make it timeless.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think one of the things that we have encouraged people in the past is like, you know, we would say like trends are not your friends. So like just doing something because you see it on TikTok or you see it on Instagram, maybe you're not going to like that in 10, 15, 20 years that you did that thing. So that kind of goes along with that of like the idea is like, but also the reverse of that is also true of like, no matter what you do,
It's going to feel like that.
it was 2025 when you
Yeah.
got married. Like it's still going to feel like
I mean,
that
we
a little
all
bit.
look at photos of like 2000s weddings and we're like, yeah, I mean, color sashes
Right.
on wedding dresses that are ball
I
down
look good in those
skirts,
buckle
like-
jeans in 2008. Okay.
I just
And
think
my
of
American
buckle
Eagle
jeans,
shirt,
yeah, with
yeah.
the studs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do the studs. I just
Yeah.
did the big
Just
print
the big,
on the
okay, the
butt.
horseshoe, right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Just to really accentuate.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. The Ed Hardy tees, I feel like were
Yeah,
in at the
yeah.
same time.
So
But yeah, I mean, like, I think everything is always going to be a time capsule, but maybe to reframe it in your head, not as like wanting it to always look timeless, but more like it's a reflection of you in that moment in time. Like, can you choose decor or style or maybe even in the video, like how it's structured or the moments that you're prioritizing to capture what you're like in that moment in time. And for us, like, we really wanted the guest experience to be like the number one thing. And so we focused a lot on kind of the reception experience and, you know, maybe the choice for the disco balls and the hang installation, all that stuff. It was more about that moment in time and what was important to us for that group and that experience. So maybe it's okay that I wouldn't do it the same way now.
Yeah.
But it was a good capsule of that moment in time.
And you can think back and go, that's why I did that. And that's
Yeah.
that's why I loved that then.
Yeah, versus like it looked cool on Instagram or something like that.
Absolutely.
But also like maybe like not to say that's bad. Also like maybe you think it looks cool and that's the only reason why you want to do it. And that's
Right.
okay too. Like, but you know, don't feel bad 5 years from now if you want it to look different.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So one of the things we like to do with this podcast is to give advice to couples. And so we know that you won't get to work with everyone. But if you were sitting down across at Bovacanti and you're going to have coffee with a couple that's about to get married, they're planning a wedding, preparing for marriage, what's some advice that you would give them? Would that be on the side of like the floral side of things, or just in the weddings planning side of things, or just in life in general? What's some advice you would give?
Yeah. I mean, generally for planning, like I think get as much as you can out of the way early, because I think if you book all your vendors and you feel really confident with the people you selected, you normally get a little bit of a break in the middle before it gets crazy again.
Yeah.
So general advice, I think that is always like get it off your plate early so that you can kind of enjoy your engagement a little bit more. But specifically for like planning a wedding, I think that try to have client experience be your non-negotiable. When you're trying to make choices and you're not sure what the right choice is, ask yourself how it affects client experience, and it'll make I say client experience. I mean guest experience. Yeah. How it affects your guest experience. And I think it'll make making those choices a lot easier. Sometimes people struggle with making a choice because they care a lot about like the aesthetic and things like that. And as someone who works on the decor side of the wedding space, I think sometimes we focus a little too heavily on how things are going to be perceived in things afterward. And we run the risk of making a choice that actually is a negative guest experience. So I think wedding planning is a lot easier if you put guest experience first and then make your choices based off that.
What's like a practical example of where you've seen that, not using like names or anything like that, but like where you've seen them make a choice that you're like, in hindsight, that was not the best choice? Yeah.
I mean, like, I think sometimes there are trends that look great in decor that aren't practically great. One example that I've seen is actually a caterpillar table.
Which is what?
Which is a bunch of circle tables next to each other to create one long table, and it normally curves like a caterpillar.
Right.
It's beautiful and it's very cool. It is kind of a challenging dining experience for your guests. A lot of times people are sitting like at the seam of a table.
You put the people you don't like there.
Yeah, people may not end up next to their significant other.
Two tables,
people end up being maybe too close to each other. I think that it looks great and it performs great in styled shoots and all of that, just because it's so interesting visually for photo and video. But the actual experience of having dinner in that place, and then also having a seating chart where guests know where to go and it's one long caterpillar table, is very hard. So I think that's maybe just one example. Like, it looks great. It's great for Instagram. It's great for photos. It's a harder guest experience. I would say if you want to do a caterpillar table, you should have a wedding planner, planner that's done it before. Lean on them to make sure it's a good guest experience. I think that's really hard to do yourself without a planner helping you make sure it's going to work well for your guests. So that's maybe one example. Great. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And kind of thinking through those things in which you see it, like you said, you see it on Instagram and it does look cool, but you weren't there in the environment to experience it. Or I think a lot of times people see things on like style shoots where it's models and everything has been meticulously, and like there's no schedule for the day except for the schedule that you make up to get the shots that you need. It's like, it wasn't practical at all for an actual wedding day in which you're coming together to, join your lives together. It's a completely different experience.
So like another good example would be if you were at a ceremony and you had runway seating, and I've seen these gorgeous photos of full florals along the back of the chairs, but you can't actually get into your chair if the ceremony is set up that way. So just asking yourself, is this a good guest experience? I think will help you know if you're making a choice based off aesthetics, Instagram, decor, or if it's actually going to be a good experience for your wedding. Because ultimately, the most important thing about an event is the guest experience, and your wedding is an event. So I would say put that first.
But it doesn't mean you have to be boring, because what you guys did for your wedding was really cool. And I'd
Yeah.
like you to tell people about that, assuming that, all of our thousands and thousands of followers that saw your wedding film. But what you guys did with the State House in Indianapolis was really cool for your ceremony. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So we did a circle ceremony. And
That's first and only time I've ever filmed one. It's super cool.
It was great. And I would say, like, I thought it was a good guest experience because we set it up. So it's basically 2 half moons, and then your ceremony takes place in the middle of the circle. And then normally the decor is low since it's in the middle of the space. So we did like a really cool ground arch, and then our officiant would stand in the middle of the aisle. So that way they were kind of out of the way from the space. My family was on the side across from me so they could see my face, and Devin's family was on the side across from him so they could see his face. And so it was a really great visual experience, I think, for our guests. It was more intimate. I remember walking down the aisle and just how close I was to everyone because they were already curved in facing me. I think it felt really special versus in traditional rows, like someone you love could be on the very far end. They're nowhere near you when you walk down the aisle. So it did create, like, I think, a unique viewing experience for our guests. And it looked great visually, but the only challenge, I think, was just where the officiant stands, and especially for photos and things like that, how they got out of the way. But once we figured that out, it was a no-brainer to do that setup. Yeah,
and the top-down view of that just was so unique and so cool. And
the State House, I think, really lent itself to that setup.
You couldn't do that in a lot of places.
No, and I think that was a really unique space because the State House has that really cool marble, like, setting in the center of the floor. And to me, when I was thinking about the design of the space, I felt like that needed to be the focal point. And so naturally it just made sense for the chairs to kind of go around that and for us to use that location as the ceremony spot.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I tried to play into it the best I could.
Playing into the strengths of the space.
The space itself. Yeah, exactly.
And when a couple comes to you and they're interested in, you guys doing their day, how much do you direct, guide, and help them kind of like think through? Because not a lot of people have that creative mindset to go, okay, what if you're getting married here, the accent point is this for decor, and we're going to build our like do you get to do that often, or do you feel like that's something that couples don't know that you offer?
I think now I do it more. I think early in my floral career, early in the business, I was really just like getting very specific instructions and then replicating that. I think now I'm at a point where I feel really confident. I kind of know what works seasonally. I know the venues really well. I know kind of the timelines that you get when you get each venue. Like, I can kind of make suggestions.
Yeah.
And so our questionnaire is structured in a way that, yes, you send me inspo, you tell me your colors, but it also opens up the option for me to give suggestions rather than just getting kind of a laundry list of these are the floral items I want you to recreate. So in our questionnaire, you're telling me a little bit about kind of how you want the day to feel, high level stuff like color palette, things like that. I asked the nitty gritty of how many things like bouquets and corsages, boutonnieres you want. But when it comes to ceremony reception, you can select things that you like, and then you tell me your high level budget, and I'll make some suggestions just based off what you've sent, what I think will look cool in the space that's unique to the space, that's unique to you. And I think in doing that, we come up with a lot of unique ceremony installations, unique setting ideas that clients sometimes wouldn't even know existed, because you don't need to know what flowers exist. You don't need to know what a circle ceremony is or what a ground arch is, or the number of forms that, like, I have a spot where you can select what you like as far as installation work goes. And there's an other option where you can write something in. And I have a lot of people that are like, I don't know what any of those are. So whatever you think, like, so, and you don't have to know the name of all of the things, and that's totally fine.
That's cool.
I like helping pick one and work with you to pick one that fits your budget and then also your style.
Yeah. So when you think about Duet, what are some of the things that you really feel like, having been in the experience, having been a bride recently, having sisters that have gotten married, what do you feel like sets your guys' company apart, and the way that you try to do this well and to serve clients well?
Yeah. I think similar to how I want people to prioritize guest experience, like, for me, my non-negotiable is our client experience. And I think that really sets us apart. I hold myself to a really high standard of responding to emails within 24 to 48 hours. And you'd be surprised how many creative business owners like don't do that. And I think that's fine because their strength is the creative side. But client experience, I think, is one of my strengths and something that I care a lot about.
Yeah.
I, can text my clients. I make a lot of suggestions and will help work with a budget. Some florists don't do that. They give us that price to a wish list. They won't make a suggestion to help you hit a certain number. That's something that's very important to me. We still
or even get to a certain look of like, hey, you could do that and it's going to cost you this, or you could do this and it's going to look very similar. And get you closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, totally. So, I think that's important. That's a good client experience.
Right.
I'm your partner in design.
Yeah.
You're hiring me to help you create your decor. It has a lot to do with what you need and want, not just what I want to design.
Right.
And, we have a lot of steps along the way to make sure people feel comfortable and confident. We do digital mock-ups of all of our floral work so that people can see what it's going to look like with their linens, with their chargers, with their flatware ahead of time so that we can tweak it. If you want to change your color palette, I also am not holding you to what we originally decided in our contract. We meet again like 4 to 6 weeks before your wedding.
Right.
If you wanted an all white rose wedding and now you want it to be like sunset colors, we can make that adjustment. Our contracts are a minimum investment and we can reallocate and change the design as long as we lock it in 4 weeks before your wedding day. So I'm really flexible. I want to make sure my clients have a good experience. And then wedding week, I actually send preview photos of the flowers to get people excited about it. I send some gifts along the way, and then we have, and I won't give it away, but we do have a special gift we send our couples after their wedding too as well. So I'm taking a lot of steps to make sure they have a good experience working with us.
I love that. That's incredible to think about, when people are making that decision, and florals can be a big investment for a wedding. It's, but really it is one of the centerpieces to the day of making the whole thing come together. But to know that, they have a partner that's with them in this, and they have someone that is thinking about things that maybe they're not even thinking about for their good and for their benefit. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a visual thing. And I think sometimes it's hard because you'll get an estimate back and it's not visual at all. So there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust you have to build as a florist. They're trusting you to create something when they aren't going to see it until it's actually at the wedding. So we try to do as much as we can to alleviate any stress or worry about whether or not it's going to look the way that they're expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think client experience and just helping people, because like you said, like your work is so visual and people get to see that and experience that. And that really is one of the, besides your venue, the florals is like one of the biggest selling points to making the day kind of what it is and how it looks and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and it impacts your other vendors like video and
absolutely.
photo, like
100%.
The venue and the decor are kind of a big piece of that.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like that video is going to look better if those flowers are incredible, and working with talented florists like yourself, I think absolutely makes our jobs easier. And more fun too, because it's like that's interesting and that looks beautiful. And so, you want to get, not that you don't do that for every client, but it's like when they have something that's unique or really, stunning or arresting, it's like, oh, we definitely got to get a good shot of that. And you want to savor that and hold that. And you're going to want to remember that 15, 20 years from now.
Totally.
So for people that are kind of in that engaged season, how early on do you recommend kind of like getting connected with a florist?
Yeah. I mean, I think once you have a wedding date, you can reach out to a florist.
Yeah.
You probably don't even need to know your color palette to still get an estimate. As long as you kind of generally know how many people you're going to invite, we can probably make a high level estimate.
Yeah.
I even have some people that can lock in. We have a minimum for our full service package, which is $6,000. You could just lock that in, and then we wait until you have more information. We can figure out the specifics later. So if you have a wedding date, you can book a florist. But I would say most people book somewhere between the year to 8 months out.
Yeah.
And we typically do just like a high level estimate and a mood board that locks it in. And then we revise that when we meet with them again 6 to 4 weeks before the wedding.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone's listening to this conversation and they don't yet have a florist, how would they get connected with Duet?
Yeah. So you can find all of our work, our portfolio on Instagram at Duet Floral. If you want to inquire, you can always DM me there, but you can also visit our website, which is duetfloral.com. It's DUET Floral. So that's a great place. And you fill out our form and I'll send over kind of the next steps for that. Typically, we do a questionnaire that helps us create a design that we'll go over and an estimate we'll go over together in a meeting, and then we'll revise it and move forward at that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
It was good to hang out with
Yeah,
you
good
in
to see ya.
in a non-wedding day environment.
Oh, yeah.
Hang out a little bit. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.